Counting down 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Refuge podcast. This time I have a live stream. We're going back to the past at the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. And this time my guests are first, Kenny Brown, of course, who you guys may have seen on the NFL playoff preview live stream talking about his Las Vegas Raiders. Of course, that is so weird to say. I'm so used to saying Oakland or Los Angeles, but it's something to get used to. Kenny, how you doing?
How you doing, Earl?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Hopefully everything's going well, and hopefully everything's going well with you on this Thursday night. And then my next guest, also, you've seen him on here a few times. He's been in really 4 episodes of the podcast, a couple of 2-parters. This is Linwood Outlaw. He's also contributed to the blog as well, and I'm glad to have you here as well, Linwood. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, Earl?
Hey, I'm doing absolutely great. Hey, weather's getting warm. Eventually they might have a vaccine ready for everybody, depending on what everybody decides they're going to do. But, that's, things are all right.
Yeah. Today the weather was crazy good, man. I thought it was really good weather. I was really more in it, but, I enjoyed a little bit of it.
Yeah, I already did some grilling too already.
Yeah.
It's almost time for some crabs.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
Man, you know what? I am not a fan of picking the crabs, but you give me crab cakes, I'm there. I'm just not a fan of picking them.
Oh man, you gotta get somebody to teach you the easiest way to open them, man. You can go through them things real fast.
Yeah, take the claw and go through and tear through, and so you tear through the shell to pick the meat out. But I feel like there's a million ways to do it.
Yeah, you gotta get with me one time, man. I'll show you how to do it.
So the topic of this episode, we were looking to get, a lot of people, we were pretty much as English majors in a study group and, like the TV show Community, except actually it was really funny, the stuff that went on in our group. But we had a couple of things going on, and I know we had a few other guests we were going to get, and hopefully we'll get them for another time. But the one of the things we wanted to talk about, just our experiences at UMES being English majors, and it feels like the English department and the major itself doesn't get as much love as, the HRM, the music stuff, which unfortunately is having its issues, and really the biology stuff, all the medical people, everybody else's gets the love when it comes to their majors, but it feels like the English department and the journalism side doesn't get it.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Oh, so I wanted to start this off. We'll start with Kenny first and then go on to Linwood. Just sort of, how did you end up at UMES?
I applied for it. Definitely wasn't at the top of my list. But I applied for it and in a couple of other colleges too. And to me, they were the first ones to get back. And time was running down for me to make a decision as far as where I wanted to go because of logistics and all that stuff. So I made a conscious effort and decided to go. I had other, my top, so I wanted to stay home and go to school, but my pops wanted me to go away to go to school. I guess because I was growing to be a man and things like that. So, but yeah, that's how I ended up in the Eastern Shore.
How about you, Linwood?
I'm kind of embarrassed to say it's around my senior year. I didn't really put a lot of stock into a certain school. I think how some people in your senior year in your class, they kind of knew what school they wanted to go to, or they had all their eggs in one basket. Like, I have to get into this school, or I want to go to this school for this major. I honestly really didn't have a particular school in mind. I think it was when my stepmom gave me a bunch of brochures, and one of them was for Eastern Shore. And she said, well, just pick a school in the state and we'll take you for a tour. Me, my stepmom, and my dad. So I picked Eastern Shore. I just said, okay, we'll just go to Eastern Shore. And I went there, I think it was like October 2000. I think that's around the time they had, it was around the time of the start of the school year. They had a lot of events going on. I happened to go there on the day where there was a lot going on campus. And they hadn't even had the new, the student activity center that opened up when we got there, our first year. That wasn't even up. And that day, it was so much fun, man. Like, everything, that the tour was on point. Everything. Like, it was a really good tour. And I was like, dang, that was the first time I actually ever been to a campus environment on any campus like that. Like, I had never even been to College Park's campus, Bowie's campus, anything like that. That was the first college campus I ever set foot on. And I mean, the tour went so well, and I was like, well, when we was driving back, I was like, you know what? It's close enough to home where I could get back when I needed to, and further enough away where I felt like I can get that, like, going away college experience. You know what I mean? So I felt like it was the perfect trade-off in that sense. So I pretty much had made up my mind that I was going to go to Eastern Shore after that tour. Like, it was, like I said, in October 2008, that was like right around the time my senior year was starting. I applied to other schools. Like, I applied to Bowie, I applied to Frostburg. And I think with Bowie, I had to do a summer program in order to get in. And I think with Frostburg, I had to start a semester late. So I think they had a lot of incoming freshmen that year, and they wouldn't be able to accommodate me until I think January after that Christmas break. And we Eastern Shore, I didn't do anything. I got in, I didn't have to do a summer program. I can come straight down. So I was like, all right, well, I mean, hey, I tried a couple other schools. So that really that made my mind up. And they had an English major, and I felt that was good enough for me. I didn't really think about, like, journalism programs. I know there are a lot of schools around the country that have really good journalism programs. I figured, like, look, they have English. That's good enough for me. I saw that they had courses in radio and television. So I was pretty much like, hey, I'm going to settle on this. And I was pretty much sold after that. That's how it all got started. It was really just like about a month or two into my senior year, and we went up for the tour. I liked what I saw. I felt like it was further enough away from home, but not too far away, and I went with it.
Yeah, my story is this. I don't know. I probably started applying senior year. I was sort of in high school. I was just sort of like, didn't care enough. I had like a 2.6 grade point average because I felt like I was bored in high school. But yeah, I applied to UMES, I applied to Salisbury, I applied to Frostburg, I applied to Washington College, I applied to College Park. Got in all 5. UMES gave me loans. Other than that, Frostburg gave me something. Washington College gave me a bunch, but it still wouldn't have covered everything. Salisbury hardly gave me anything. Maryland gave me work study. And that was pretty much it for those schools. And that was the only and then all of a sudden a scholarship came, the AMP Scholar, which was for something related to science, which again, probably look back at it, is a good way to get in the door. But yeah, science was definitely not my thing. So I pretty much had like a 3-point-something grade point average. I was going to lose a scholarship anyway. That summer, I went to the head of the computer science department, said, I'm changing my major. I go to JT Williams, not JT Williams. I can't think of what it was, where the office of registrar. Well, maybe it was JT Williams. I went to a few places. I went there, got my paperwork, went up to Dr. Keenan's office, had him sign to switch my major over, and that was pretty much it. So that fall, I started fall sophomore year. I started as an English major. Now, Kenny, why did you end up picking English? I know we heard Linwood's perspective why he chose it, but what about you?
My first major that I picked was computer science, and before I even decided to do English, and the reason for the switch was, I was following in the footsteps of somebody, my father. He was in the IT field, so I figured I'd go into the IT field and try to be, a network engineer or something. I think that was my profession that I chose coming out of high school that I wanted to do. But then, when you start meeting people, networking with people, and then also finding out new schools and things like that while you're down there, students that got new majors and new direction. Linwood, he was a roommate of mine my freshman year. He was an English major, and he was telling me about, his lane and his plans of going off into in the broadcast field, journalism and broadcast field. And that was something that I always wanted. I always enjoyed like talking sports and writing. That was my biggest thing. I always like writing and stuff, like, stuff with words and stuff, poems and things like that. So I decided to change my major. I think spring semester freshman year, I changed my major to English. And that's how I got on that. And with the inspiration of my man Linwood.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, it's crazy, man. Just the people you meet, they can have a big influence on you. And I wish I had roommates actually like freshman year. First impressions. First impressions of UMES stepping campus. I know Linwood, you talked about it as well. The time you went. How about you, Kenny?
It was a pretty good college. I had a cousin that went there. So I actually saw the college. I didn't really have to take a tour or nothing like that. I just went out there, and my cousin gave me the whole rundown and stuff like that. So I knew about the school before I actually chose to go there. It just wasn't at the top of my list. But when I would say once I committed and I went out there and told him I was going, he was happy. He showed me around the campus. For real, the campus is really nice. They really keep up with the appearance of the campus and everything like that. And that's really really the good thing about it. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I was gonna say, like, yeah, I mean, just like Kenny, the campus is beautiful. It still is. I went down there. I had to drop my cousin off not too long ago. I rode down my dad and we drove him back. Actually, he stays in Wacomico, so I actually went there just to see if everything still looked the same. It still look a little bit the same, but the campus is still the same. It's very beautiful, very nice. That was really my first impression. When I first got down there, my first day. That was at like the actual day when it was like, all right, I'm down there on my own. My parents actually gonna be leaving me down there. My whole concern at that point, I was like, man, where the barbershop? Like I remember I was asking like so many people that, and then that's what I really got to realize just how small the community was.
Right.
And like we had to get folks on campus to cut our hair. Like I remember we used to go to I think it was laundromat, clusters. Yeah. And I think it was Kent used to cut our hair in court. Yeah. So I was out there. Then in subsequent years we would go in laundromat, or I'd go run to a barber at his dorm or whatever. He'll go to his dorm room and get my hair cut or whatever. Standing behind like 4 other dudes waiting to get their cuts. I remember that was the biggest thing for me, man, because I didn't even have a car really until I think like my last year at Eastern Shore. So I mean, thank goodness. I knew Kenny and Dre and all that, like everybody else that who had a car, man. Thank y'all, Kenny. I thank you again, man, for giving me rides and helping me out. We appreciate that. Like I said, I didn't even get a car until my last year. That was only because of my aunt. So, but yeah, that was the biggest thing. It was like, wow, like that's when you really realize, like, wow, we are in a small community. We gotta take shuttle buses to get to the mall. So those things, it was getting used to. And I remember we used to like go there like every weekend. Used to go to Salisbury Mall by shuttle. We were so used to riding.
Just to do something, because the campus is dead on the weekends.
Yeah. My first week we didn't do anything. Like I think we didn't have any classes. I think we started. I think we had the whole week until the upperclassmen returned, if I remember. And like, we were in the freshmen. So all we did all week was just either stuff in the student activities, and I think we had like a bus trip to Ocean City. I did all of that. Like I did, like I went to like the student activity stuff. I think they had a movie like every night or every week in that theater, which was nice.
It's crazy because our freshman year, the world changed with 9/11.
Yep, it did. So, everything.
The first couple of weeks, that's when 9/11 happened. Yep.
9/11, Aaliyah dying. That I remember. That's like one of the first or second Saturdays we were there, and like I go out, I walk out from Court Plaza. Everybody seems like they're in like a daze, and I'm wondering what's going on. And then somebody mentioned Aaliyah died, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, you know. I remember Kenny had told me when I came back in the dorm room. I was like, man, that I know that didn't happen, and right. I didn't believe him. Like, but yeah, that's Kenny told me when I came back from the dorm room from lunch or something, and I turned to MTV, and sure enough, man, I'm talking about it was a lot of heartbroken people walking around campus for like a month behind that. It just really set a sad tone. And then the 9/11 event. So yeah, it's just when you think about it, it's like, man, that's crazy. Like, it all just started right at the top of our first year.
Yep.
That's crazy. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. My first impression of UMES, I actually went there for like a middle school thing. So I remember the football field, the clusters, Wilson Hall. I think Court Plaza was there. Nuttall was definitely there. SDC. That was it. There was just empty space where the SSC and the High Center would be. That it was just nothing there. It was just you had them bleachers and you had that walkway to the clusters and just empty open field. So that was like 1996. That was 1996. So because I remember it was a summer camp and the Orioles were they were back in the playoffs. So I remember that year. So again, it feels weird. I always have to use some sporting event to make it significant of where I was at that time. But biggest thing you learned from your experience at UMES. Before we go into that, I just gotta say I know some. Did you go to Leon when he was cutting hair?
All right, once or twice, I think. I had to at least go a couple of times, I think.
Yeah. After I went to Leon a couple times and I was sort of like done. I went with Woody was my guy cutting my hair for the rest of the time at UMES after that.
Yeah, I ain't had no problems. I had braids back then, so
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I remember.
None of
that. Now going into that, the biggest thing you can take away from your experience at UMES.
Who you want to go first? Number?
Yeah, you can go first if you want to.
Biggest thing, really, being away from home, learning how to make the right decisions, based upon your wants and your needs and things like that, priorities. Definitely, it's one of the big things I took. Still to this day, I'm conditioned. I can't go on a vacation or I can't go shopping or do anything unless my priorities in order, and that's that balance I have. I can't. My mind can't rest until I have all my priorities taken care of and a peace of mind and things like that. That's one of the biggest things. Like my freshman year, first semester, Linwood tell you. He was doing all this, every time I come in the room, he studying and doing his work, and me, I'm leaving out back in the room like 3, 4 in the morning. And that first semester I blew it. But after I got put on academic probation and, I learned that this is real and I could go home, if I don't get it right. It really taught me priorities. They put me in a program to help me balance, life and then, doing my work and doing my studies and stuff like that. So that was one of the biggest things that I still carry to this day. And I try to instill that in my kids.
How about you, Wood?
a lot of the things that Kenny took away from it. First thing was responsibility. Man, the one of the things I struggle with the most and still kind of struggle with this day, it was just getting up on time. Like we had to get up like super early. Man, like my first year, I was late to so many of those like 8 o'clock classes. It was just like it was almost like it was expected I was gonna walk in the door. Like everybody, teachers, the other students, like, yep, here you come right on schedule, 10, 15 minutes. But it was really like the first time like I didn't have like my father running into the room talking about, hey, get up. It's time to go to school or something like that, or whatever. I mean, that's how I was. I mean, it was really me taking care of myself, making sure I got myself fed. And I remember like before I got down there, man, my stepmom and my mom used to lecture me about a lot of things, like as far as eating the right foods. I remember my stepmom even tried to teach me how to cook some things, and it was like it just all went in one ear and out the other. I was a senior. I was just happy to be getting out of school, moving on to the next phase in life. But all that stuff came to roost my first year at Eastern Shore. Because I saw it every day. It was like I could eat hamburgers and fries every day at the caf if I wanted to. They give you that choice. I was skipping right over all the healthy stuff like salads and whatever else. It was all there, but I skipped over it. So I had the freedom to eat what I wanted to. But at the same time, I learned about responsibility in terms of eating the right things, and keeping myself disciplined. And also keeping myself disciplined in my studies. You know what I'm saying? Like I did take my academics seriously. I didn't think about things like academic probation or anything. I just wanted to pass my classes because I was intimidated by the college curriculum when I got down there, believe it or not. Even though that was like my first semester Eastern Shore was probably the easiest I ever had. It was really easy when I look back on it, but I was still intimidated because it was new. It was a new curriculum, new courses, new expectations, because they looked at us like adults. Whereas in high school, they looked at us like kids. They'll remind us about assignments and things like that. We didn't have those reminders at Eastern Shore. So I just wanted to make sure I was staying on top of my things, at least passing my courses, or at least, being able to follow my courses. So I think that it was that first semester really helped me to get acclimated to college. It wasn't too difficult that I couldn't keep up with, but at the same time, it was difficult enough to let us know what it was like. And I think it helped me really take to grow with each semester. So that's what I really appreciate it. So I learned a lot about responsibility, honoring your choices. Listen, some people probably entertained transferring and things like that, but I didn't feel like I needed to. I felt like I had the curriculum that I needed. Once I found out that I could get into internship opportunities, meeting Miss Burkle was big for me. And for a lot of students, because she showed us the way, man, and really gave us a lot of valuable insight that we could have gotten really on any other college campus. She has a wealth of experience, and I really appreciated that. I appreciated her guidance, her mentorship in a lot of ways, looking back on it. And that really made me want to stay for real. Not that I ever seriously entertained it, but if I ever did have any thoughts about transferring, they were gone after I met Miss Burkle, because I really felt confident that I could still get to where I needed to go at Eastern Shore. So it was really just staying the course, honoring your choices, and taking pride in being from the HBCU. I still take pride in being from the HBCU. It was a lot. I mean, just thinking back on it, I learned a lot of things. But it was mainly all rooted in responsibility and taking every opportunity to make the most of every opportunity.
Yeah, I think for me, it was really getting about trying to balance everything like you were talking about. At one point, freshman year, I was trying out for the baseball team. I was doing the academic team, and I was doing drama. And so I'm doing one night I'm doing the play, one night I'm doing the academic team. After I noticed I can't get up at 6:30 in the morning to do baseball stuff, I was like, yeah, I'm fine there. I can, it was only a pipe dream. But it was something to say. I tried out for baseball at UMES, but yeah, honestly, I feel like the thing is, if you balance your time, there's plenty of time to get everything done and still be able to do as many things as you want. Because sophomore year, then I'm doing radio station, still doing academic team, still doing drama and things like that. Those, and so like every other night it's like it's something going on. Plus, I still want to try to be sociable and hang out with friends and things like that. And I know you guys were talking about taking a shuttle to the mall. For me, some nights with some friends, I would Saturday nights we'd go because the Royal Farms wouldn't stay open 24 hours like every other Royal Farms would be, and we'd end up driving to Wawa or Taco Bell like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday night just to grab food, because that's the time, we're in the clusters. Yeah, that's the freshman friends have friends in the clusters, and you've already had the freshman 15, so what's another 10 pounds? So, that's what it was to me. And I guess the biggest thing was, you can surprise yourself when you put a little effort into something, because I know we're going to get into the late night study sessions, because, had we actually did a lot more work where we didn't have to study late at night till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, writing papers and everything, it would have been so much easier. It'd have been so much easier just to have a little more time to chill and relax. I feel like now my goal, more so as a reporter, it was to try to do stuff little by little, so I don't end up waiting in the last minute to write something. But to me, that was probably the biggest experience. And your experience is what you make it. There's plenty of people I know who still complain about going to UMES and talk about it. I mean, not donating money is one thing, but if you're saying you hate your experience, that's probably more you problem than anything else. You had your opportunities to leave. You had your chance to do more stuff. If something isn't to your liking, then you got to either find an option or make your own option. I mean, there's plenty of people who made clubs and stuff who, uniquely defined that was something that was probably needed. That was spearheading a lot of stuff on the LGBTQ front that was started at UMES well ahead of its time, probably at some other campuses, but at HBC it was probably definitely needed. But some things, if you can't find something, you got to you just got to do it. You just got to try to find your way in.
I was just going to add one thing to that. If that was okay, Earl. Yeah, like honestly, like, look, man, like, we all had our phases of complaining about something. Everybody everywhere does it, first of all. I mean, if people who probably went to big schools probably complained about this, that, and the third. This, they didn't like this or that. There are people who leave big schools for other big schools because it's not to their liking. You know what I mean? But in all honesty, man, like, look, me, I'm a shy, quiet, humble person by nature, right? So Eastern Shore, truthfully, was a perfect school for me. It was a small school. It was in a like rural, secluded environment. I mean, I honestly did feel at home there. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't out there like that, but I felt like it did fit my personality and my speed to an extent. You know what I mean? And just looking back on it, it really did. I probably didn't acknowledge it as much back then, but it did, for sure. I felt like it did. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like, just simple days, like going to class, going to the caf with Kenny and Dre, coming back to the room, watching NBA games. Like, I was straight with that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was good. Going to the occasional parties. I mean, we had a good balance of fun, I felt like, looking back on it, to me. And and I mean, like, when Kenny talked about going, partying, hanging out, yeah, he did do that. But you know what? We were all new to school. I mean, that's part of the experience, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like we all did different stuff there because it was new. It was a new environment. You know what I mean? So it ain't no shame in hanging out. It's just that me personally, like, I just happened to be studying. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't failing out. So I know I ain't want to bring no report card home to my father talking about I failed the first semester. So that's how it was for me, man. But yeah, I just feel like looking back on it, like it was the right school for me in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it was a pretty dope experience. I just think we got tested by the workers who worked there that made us spaz out in the room and all that stuff. True. We used to try it, man. I swear, we talk about some of them situations, man. And people really used to try us, man.
Yeah, no, you're right.
One of the things I wanted to get into next in discussion, as I call it, like you see in the yearbooks, the superlatives. This is for us English majors, our English superlatives. First thing I want to start off with favorite teacher, and I'll start off with you, Kenny.
Miss Burgle. Miss Burgle was very inspiring. I appreciated her honesty. She really connected me with my and I know we're gonna talk about it later, internships, but she made me, like, it was because of her. When I think about my college days, I think about the internship she got me into, working with the George Michael Sports Machine and NBC4 the sports department. And I'll talk about that when we go into that. But and just her classes, I was really, really into the broadcasting, and her classes were very interesting to me, and a lot of her techniques. Even though I'm not in the broadcast industry and things like that, I do a lot of writing in my job, my day-to-day job. So a lot of the writing styles and habits that I learned from her, I do incorporate into my work today. So, but yeah, I would say Ms. Burgle.
Linwood, how about you?
Yeah, Ms. Burgle, man, for a lot of the same reasons. I mean, I think if I recall correctly, I think that we were initially supposed to have another professor and not Ms. Burgle. So I came back to school expecting another teacher, and then we had Ms. Burgle.
Yeah, I think that was.
Yeah, I just can't recall the teacher's name. I'm almost certain that I know that Ms. Burgle's name wasn't on my schedule. I know it was another teacher.
Yeah, she wasn't on mine either. I think we were all in the same class. I think.
I think we were, and so we met Ms. Burgle, but man, like the things that Ms. Burgle exposed us to there, I wasn't even really expecting to be exposed to, essentially. Right. Like she, I think she required us to do a shadow of like reporters in the area. I remember I was shadowing, I believe it was Jason Newton, who now works in Baltimore for WBAL TV. And he's from Baltimore. I shadowed him. That was the first time I actually been inside of a TV station. Met some of the crew and staff there. I was able to shadow him and hang out with him for the night. And he talked with me about the business and his experiences, also about how Ms. Burgle helped him and mentored him. And he spoke very highly of Ms. Burgle. And she just got us into doing a lot of different things and took us on field trips. Like I remember we went to Howard University's career fair one time. I think that was my last year there. Yep. And then we went to the I think it was the press club where we met like Elijah. We met who did we meet? I can't recall. But we got to go to the press club and see an event there. It was just so many different things that we were exposed to. And she gave us a lot of really good insight. And it just felt authentic. It felt like authentic training. I felt like we almost got more than what we were bargaining for there. And it was just, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting like the typical classroom instructions, but Ms. Burgle took it 10 steps forward and made sure that we got a really good feel for what we needed to do in order to pursue and establish a career in this field. And I was so grateful for the things that she did, man. Like, cause she did so much for us to really step up the extra mile that I don't think that most other teachers would have done. Not because they're lazy or they're bad professors, but Ms. Burgle had a certain unique feel for the business that probably most professors there didn't have. You know what I mean? And I think that she was able to open different doors for us. Like I was able to do like 2 internships. I did one at the Daily Times. I did one at TV station WMAR here back at home. And it was Ms. Burgle who got me on the path towards getting those things and really, emphasize the points of getting internships, creating jobs for ourselves before we graduate. And, and she helped us out. She was always there. She always put us in position to do something, to get something published. And it just really enhanced my experience within the major. It really did. I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah. And I think when I look back, man, I was 22. and a lot of the stuff I was going through. I looking back now, I had kind of handled it immaturely. I could have went into the broadcast industry. It was just the fact of leaving home. And the biggest thing she told me is you're gonna have to go to the smallest market to actually get started in the broadcast industry. So it wasn't like I didn't have the experience or talent or whatever or whatsoever. But I did. It was just the way I handled things. Like those trips that would mention I miss. You know what I'm saying? Or just being young, man, and stupid, man. Like, just when you think you have everything figured out, you know what I'm saying? Nah, I ain't gonna do this. I'm gonna do this because I got this internship lined up, so I don't gotta go on this field trip. Whereas I could have used that to network, and you never know what could have happened, things like that. So
yeah, I mean, you made a good point, man. It's like, listen, none of us were enamored with the possibility of moving to a small town. Like we were just in a small town for 4 years.
Right.
And basically what she was saying was like, yeah, that part isn't over yet. You still probably have to go somewhere small and start small. Now, I remember one of our classmates, when Ms. Burkle, I remember this was one of the days she was talking with us about those things. One of our classmates was like, yeah, you probably should kind of want to do that, because she's like, I don't think I want to go somewhere like the Washington Post and that be my first job.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it was like, yeah, but back then it was like, nah, man, it's like, I want to go work in a big city. I think that's what it was. I think that we were just in a place where it was like, okay, we kind of were starting to get a little tired of being in a small area. I think that's what it was for a lot of people. But I mean, I ended up, my first job was in a town that was like, it felt like it was smaller than Salisbury. I was in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. But it was a good first experience. I learned a lot. I had to grow up a lot. I realized how much I didn't know on my first job. And it all harkened back to lessons that Ms. Burkle was talking about. And that's what the first job is supposed to be for, starting in that small area, starting on a small scale. And it's today I still recall, like, the growing pains I went through in my first job. But being in a small area helped, because you can make mistakes. You have someone there to point out those mistakes, and it's you have to start somewhere, right? But it's also the growth that has to take place, and it's going to take place in those smaller markets. But yeah, I was just like Kenny too. I didn't want to go to any small town. I wanted to go to a big place too. You know what I mean? We all do, but like Kenny said, being young, man, we just didn't realize it. We didn't understand it. We think we know it all. We think because we seniors and we getting ready, we got all our credits and we get ready to graduate. Can't tell us nothing at that point. Damn. Couldn't tell me nothing when I was a high school senior and I graduated. I thought I was on top of the world that whole summer. And then you get out from Eastern Shore. I spent all that whole summer looking for my first job and ended up in a small community that I was able to get really because of the internship I did with the Daily Times, because it was in that paper. The editor of the Times said, put in a good word for me in Chambersburg, and that's how I was able to get my first job.
Mm-hmm. And just to sum up, my favorite teacher, of course, is Burkle. Interestingly enough, if there's a 1A, 1B, 1A is Burkle, 1B, Reddish. Reddish was, Reddish in the radio class.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Reddish. Yeah, like I said, honestly, you learned a lot in the radio class just as much as you learned in TV. I think honestly that helped me pave a way to radio. Which again, I do regret not going into TV, but I feel like I saw more along superficial things. And I think, look, now 38 years old, I watch some of these young kids on TV. I could still do it better than them. And I'm 38. So, I still think I can do it better than some of these kids. And the criteria to be a reporter at WBOC has significantly changed. Toughest teacher that we had. I have a feeling we all know who it is, but I'll let you guys say it first. Linwood?
It was definitely Dr. Keenan. To me.
Who was it?
Keenan, Dr. Keenan.
Oh, okay.
For me, okay.
Okay.
I think Dr. Jima was tough too. She could be tough. But I feel like Dr. Jima kind of learned from the master in that sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because she kind of reminded me of Dr. Keenan in a lot of ways. But what Dr. Keenan did for us there, I think, was I remember one of the things he did was set like the language requirement. Do you remember that? Like I think we had to take like 4 years of a foreign language.
Yeah.
And back then it's like we look at it like, come on, man, why we gotta do 4 years of a foreign language? It didn't used to be like that from what I heard. I think it was only like maybe 1 or 2 years. But then when I heard his explanation for it, he's like, he was really trying to make sure that we had as many skills as possible to be competitive in the field. You know what I mean? I didn't look at it like them being young. I was just like, I didn't want to learn things. But when I look back on it and I see the atmosphere he was trying to create and challenging us, he was another one who was like an authentic, passionate professor. You know what I mean? And he created a lot of environments. He created that type of environment in his classroom. And I felt like it was a challenge. His courses were always the most challenging for me. And for me, that's who it was. I learned, but looking back on it, it's like I'm glad that it was as challenging as it was, because I learned a lot when I look back on it. How to be responsible, how to read difficult, like literature that's difficult to kind of understand. I kind of went through that with Dr. Keenan's courses, and I think we came away from a lot. And you had to apply yourself a lot more than you probably would in a typical class. But in the end, you gained something from it. You got better from it. So for me, that's what it was. It was Dr. Keenan.
How about you, Kenny?
Is that the teacher that teach English, the dean of the school?
Yeah, British. Yeah, the 8:30 a.m. British literature class.
Yeah, I would say Dr. Keenan. I pay like Linwood. I remember when he took the class before me, and he was telling me how it is. But he was the only guy that taught that class at that school, so it was like at some point you gonna have to take him. So, when I took his class, I mean, it was extremely challenging for me. Looking back at it, if I could take his class now, I'll pass it with a breeze. Because I was just immature back then, man. So every time, if the teacher rubbed me the wrong way, I ain't gonna apply myself. I'm just going, I'm checked out. So, I failed a couple of his tests, and it wasn't looking good for me. So I withdrew from his class in the middle of the semester or shortly before the middle of the semester. And he told me, and I'll never forget this. He signed a paper and he was like, "You can run, but you can't hide." That's what he told me. So I was like,
I remember that too, man.
I came back to the room like, man, they really trying me, man.
I remember that. We could not believe that, man. We were tripping off the whole night.
The whole night. I couldn't believe he said that. So he said that. And immediately, dog, like that next year, I actually took the class in Salisbury. So I went and took the class in Salisbury and passed it. And, when I walk across that stage, I wanted to say something to him, but I didn't. But, what I'm saying? That's how I got around Dr. Keenan, man. But he's a good dude. It's just I don't got nothing bad to say about him. It's just his teaching style just didn't fit me, and I was immature too at the same time. So
it was a tough class. Man. I was like that. By the time I found out about the Salisbury class, I had by the skin of my teeth finally passed Dr. Keenan. So it was like, dang, I was like, Kenny found out about. I was like, man, we could be rolling up there every day to Salisbury. But a late
too, man. Yeah. That class started like 7:45. I ain't get back to the crib till like a little past 10. You know what I'm saying? Because it was like a Tuesday and Thursday class, so it was like an hour and a half. So I had that whole semester. I had late nights them days, man. So
yeah, that probably wouldn't have fly if it's Tuesday, Thursday. That's academic team for me, so I would never been able to make it. So I mean, I'll tell you this: my toughest teacher, and I mean, again, 1As, 1Bs. Keenan was tough, but honestly, I'll tell you this: it prepared me for my run on Jeopardy. I know enough English lit to at least fake it my way through on Jeopardy. But the toughest one was Dr. Jima, but I learned a lot from her. I became a better writer because of her. became a better writer when it comes to papers. When it came to her, better journalism writer from Burkle, but I feel like all those times we were told in college you got to write full information. Honestly, we were super lucky with her papers because some places you got to write twice as many pages as we used to write for her. She'd give us what 5, no max, no more than 6 or 7, and then
remind us about that too. She would always say that. She would always let us know, like, "Hey, look, like this is really nothing that you gotta do for me." Like she would say that so many times. She was not shy about that at all.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I had like 3 or 4 classes with her. So I had Novel East and West with her. I had literary criticism with her. I had African American Lit with her. I feel like there was a 4th class I had with her. Like I said, I had people I had the most classes with were her and Burkle, and I only had 2 with Mignon Anderson. But those are the only 2.
Who's the African teacher that taught world literature?
Oh, was that Dr. Before?
I got the class messed up, but the way his class is, he come into class, he don't say nothing. He just say hello, and then he go to the board and he put the whole answers to the test on the board. The whole class, you copy what he put on the board, study the joint for a week, and then take the test. He give you the answers before you take it.
And I'm mad because I bought the textbook for that daggone class. I'm like, so at what point are we going to use this textbook? Like, that was really my question. So I just sold it back the end of the year, and I'm like, I wish I'd have known that. I could have kept it.
Yeah, because you told me to take him. You was like, yo, take him. I'm telling you right now, he put the answers on the board, just copy it and study it, and you be good. I got an A in that joint.
Easy cake. Just go in there. You can't miss a day, though. Can't miss a day. If you do, you got to get notes from somebody. That was the only thing. Like, I mean, he'll do that, and then he'll say, do we have any questions? And of course, if we had questions, we had everything we need on the board.
Right.
Like, look, man, just send us an email. Just tell us to show up on test day. We don't even need to come in here and do all this.
Right.
Yeah. That was crazy.
I forgot his name, man. I forgot his name.
Yeah, I think it was Lammonby or something like that.
Oh.
I think Dr. Williams. Cool guy.
I didn't have any of those
away from him. I mean, he's a cool guy, but it was a unique approach for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I remember an environmental science class where I've been going every day, and he told us all you have to do is come up the day before the final and the midterm, and that's all. I'm like, well, hey, that's all you had to tell me. I had some extra time on Tuesdays and Thursdays where I didn't have to go in, except for those days on the midterm and on the day before the midterm, the day before the class before the final. That's it. That was the easiest, probably one of the easiest A's I ever got next to history class. Where I mean, okay. Favorite class. Here we go. Favorite class.
Oh man.
Mine was the I don't know. Still, I don't know his name. I only remember Miss Burkle name. But it was the guy that taught the editing class. Where we he let us like edit on the computers like the whole semester. Like we would watch movies. We'll study like what a bird eye view shot is, or all those types. It was literature and film. And film. So that was one of my favorites. I like stuff like that, like studying movies and scenes, and he'll test us on what shot is this, or and then other type of editing terminology and stuff like that. But I enjoyed that one. That was one of my favorites.
Was it? I think it was White. I think it was Mr. White. I think.
Yeah, he had a
long
beard,
glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of it. But I know. Cause they had in that room. They had like the little cubicles up and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember. I don't think we got really too far. I know we just saw little bits of like of Citizen Kane and Battleship to Potemkin because they showed the little stroller rolling down the steps, and I always remember that when I think of that movie. I feel like we didn't have that. It felt like that class flew by super, super quick.
We watched 3 versions of Romeo, the little Romeo with Romeo Must Die, and then Romeo with Leonardo DiCaprio, and comparing those two movies and stuff like that. I just like stuff like that. So yeah, it was cool.
How about you, Wood?
Yeah, so I'm. It's probably the news writing course was my favorite, but who should also get an honorary mention for like amongst our favorite teachers was Mr. Rose, man. Mr. Rose that taught those, like, I think it was like some kind of drama classes or something.
The broadcast performance class.
That's it. I think that's what it was. Yeah, with the wore the glasses.
Yeah, it was Samuel L. Jackson stand-in for Coming to America.
Yeah.
I got a bone to pick about that. He got sick one semester, and then we just got these classes, and he just gave me a B for no reason. I have no reason why. Everybody else got A, but I got a B. I have no idea why. To this day, I'm like, wait, how do I get a B? And
I definitely got an A, but I wasn't expecting an A. I knew I was going to get a high grade, but I was surprised when I saw the A. I was like, I got an A in this class? Like, Mr. Rose, all right with me, man. But it was the stories, man. The stories you should tell about him being in Hollywood, man. And he would show us like some days, some movies that he was extra.
Yeah,
he was an extra in. Like, man,
he had like an afro or something because he was bald headed, but then like he had the afro. I'm like, man, yeah.
Stories, man. Like his stories were like mad entertaining and hilarious, man. So like I almost want to say it's like one of my favorite courses, but bar none, it was all the courses that Miss Burkle taught. It was particularly like the news writing and the TV writing, because she used to teach us how to write news articles and also TV packages, which I needed because I had my first internship was at a TV station, and I actually got to write some TV packages for the newscast towards the end of my internship, which was really cool. And I drew from my lessons from Miss Burkle for a lot of that.
Toughest class. I know we mentioned toughest teacher, but toughest class.
Go ahead. I'll let you go, Will.
It was probably those literature courses. Man, I'm gonna say it was a tie. My senior year. Of course, I would wait till my senior year to take these classes, right? Was Jima's African American literature and Dr. Keenan's, it was English lit. Matter of fact, I had Dr. Jima twice that semester. So I had African American literature and world literature, and I had Dr. Keenan's English lit. They all were like the same level of difficult. Like, so it was.
I remember you had them. Yeah.
Like, oh man, that semester was the worst. I kicked myself, man, because it's like I picked early on. I picked all the classes I wanted to take early on. Who's gonna tell us no? College will take whatever we want, right? You submit the classes, they sign off on the slip. If they don't see any outstanding problems, and you're on your way. Looking back on it, I wish I would have scheduled those classes further apart and took them like throughout the years. So that way, my senior year, I could have took all the classes I really wanted and was really interested in, like TV and radio and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I had all of those in the same semester, and they were all like difficult. They were like the same level. And that's what it's like. That was easily my hardest semester. You take your pick. It was either English lit, world lit, or African American literature. Either way, you can't go wrong.
I'm trying to think if we were any of those classes together, because like I said, I had a bunch of classes grouped together too. I had a couple of Dr. Jima and I had a couple of Dr. Jima, I think senior year too, even though I might have just sort of like first semester, senior year, everything else, I would just sort of like cruise control after that.
Yeah. That was that semester. I'll never get that semester. I did it all to myself too. Like, that was crazy.
Well, they said don't put off tomorrow what you can do today.
Yeah, I promise I won't do that again.
Oh yeah. Going into the internship discussion, I know Kenny, you talked about yours. You briefly talked about your internship at the Sports Machine, and Linwood, you talked about yours. Linwood, let's talk about yours first, and then Kenny will talk about the Sports Machine and your other internship.
My internship, my first one was summer before my senior year. It was WMAR ABC2 here in Baltimore. I applied for it my junior year. I had to go back home to do I think maybe 1 or 2 interviews. I think it was with I can't recall who the director was. I think it might have been Steve Weinstein, I think. Really cool guy. We had a really good interview. And both times I had good interviews. And the internship, I started that summer. It went through the entire summer, so I had to do that and do my part-time job at the library, Pikesville Library. So I was doing both of those things throughout the summer. I even took on like a third job at that time too, a Quiznos. But the TV station internship was really good. It started off really slow. It was a lot of shadowing reporters for the most part, doing gopher stuff. Whatever it is, like gopher stuff, making copies of stuff. I remember one time I had to run some papers to another building and make sure that they got there on time because somebody else couldn't make it. And that was really what it was about. And then as things went along, I got to do more things. Towards the end, I got to put together like 2 video packages. I still had the tape for that. I think it's at my dad's. And I got to do 2 like full stories. I do my own voiceovers, like my own on-site stuff, on-site reporting. I got to sit at the anchor's desk. I had to stay late at night for that. I think it was like maybe like around 11, going on midnight. And they helped me put that in my package as well, where I would, just like an anchor would, just read the teleprompter and do those things. And they would give me pointers. If we had to redo the tape, they do that. But they were gracious enough to do that because they didn't have to. They didn't have to accommodate me, but they did. It just took a while for all that stuff to happen. I actually liked shadowing reporters because I did get to see a lot on the scene. The reporters were covering really good stories at that time. I think one of the drawbacks, like around the time when the cicadas was out that summer. So like, they were everywhere. Like we were outside that year, but it was a good experience. I learned a lot, and I recalled a lot that I learned from Ms. Burkle on that internship. It was my first one, so I wanted to do a really good job. And I did good. I think I got an A. Yeah, I think I got an A for that class. But it was the entire summer. I dressed professionally every day. I got to sit in on news meetings to see what they were like. So I got the full experience, and they paced me really well. Looking back on it, I was like, dang, I never thought I would stop doing gopher stuff or stop shadowing folks. Or some days they just left me at the desk. Like, you know what I mean? Like some days they just like, you know what, bro, just chill, just hang out here for the day, whatever. And I just used to sit on the computer looking at the internet or whatever. I could like ask some reporters some questions I would here and there, but some days I was just really on my own. But looking back on it, I got the full experience. They were really gracious, and it taught me a lot, and I got a really good experience from that. And it helped me to, again, feel like I was getting the full college experience once I did that, because I felt like I was getting all the necessary in-classroom training from Ms. Burkle, and, to actually get out in the field and learn more and take it to another level and even apply some of the stuff that I learned at Eastern Shore. It was really cool. It was a really cool experience for me that summer, and I really felt like I was really positioning myself to do things. And I had to highlight that on my resume. That's really all I had. I had that. I had the Daily Times internship that I did my senior year, which was good. I got to, write some news articles here and there and do whatever duties they needed me to do at the internship. That was another good one at the Daily Times Salisbury, which Dre also did. It did a really good job for them as a sports intern writer. So those things really they helped me get my first couple opportunities. That was like the weight of my resume. It's like now I don't even put those things in my resume anymore. But I remember like those are things that I needed to kind of help me get my foot in the door, and they definitely did.
Okay, Kenny, what about your experience at the Sports Machine? What was that like? Because I think me and you had very similar experiences.
Yeah, I just want to say, Kenny, that was a cool internship, man. That was a really cool internship you had.
Yeah, it was definitely I told Wood all the stories, man. Everything that Ms. Burkle told us in the classroom definitely happens in the broadcast field. And I just remember really that internship is really you make it be whatever you make it be. It's basically you can go in there, they'll tell you the first day you can go in there and half-ass and you won't get as much out of it. But if you go in there and you really want to learn and things like that, you can be exposed to a lot of things. So I was in the sports department. I charted baseball games, golf, any sport, wrestling, NASCAR, basketball, football. We charted those games, and basically my day would consist of all the interns prepare for the 11 o'clock show. So we assist the APs, assistant producers, with charting the games and then going in the editing room with the editor. And one of the things is you got to know your game. You got to know where all the close-ups at. You got to know where all the, if it's baseball, you got to know all the plays of the play that. You got to know the time so that, because, you know, we got to prepare for 11 o'clock show. So you only got so much time to put things together and send it to the control room to, you know, put it out there. And I know a lot of interns used to get chewed up by the editors and the AP assistant producers because they really didn't know it. Me, I didn't have no problem with it because I love sports. So it's like I'm sitting here doing something that I love, and it's, you know, I knew all my games and stuff. So we did that. We also participated in the Redskins training camp. So we had, this is when their training camp was out in Ashburn. So I had to get up, go to the station, grab my credentials, this is every morning, grab my credentials, like 6 a.m, stopwatch, you know, because we got to manually chart the practices and things like that. And, you know, just going out there, this is when Patrick Ramsey and Champ Bailey, that whole team, the Redskins team, Santana Moss and them like that. So I got a chance to see these players up close and personal, then watching, running plays and doing all this stuff. And then, you know, I helped prepare for the evening show. So really, I don't really get home every night. I did that. I really don't get home till like probably 11, 12 o'clock at night. Because I'm preparing for all the shows and stuff like that. So, but definitely I got a great experience from that. And then, you know, the little sporting events that they have here, like Allen Iverson used to throw a charity at the Bowie Bay Sox stadium. And he used to invite, like, it's like a celebrity thing. He raised funds and stuff like that. We went there to interview the Wizards like Richard Hamilton and other players that were cool with AI that he invited. So we went out there to cover that. And in the midst of this, I'm seeing Bow Wow and Kevin Garnett and all these celebrities and stuff. And you know, it was a really cool experience. And you know, when we used to chart the games on Sundays, they used to bring in food and stuff and catering food, and we used to sit there, chart, eat, and everything. And I just wanted, like, rest in peace to George Michael, because he died a few years after that from, I don't know, I know he was sick, but I don't know what it was from. But you know, he remembered me because I did a couple internships. I did it the summer, like spring before my junior year. So that summertime before I started my third year in college, I did a internship, and then I went back in the winter semester. And then actually after I graduated, I went back. And you know, George was like, "Man, I know you keep coming back, man. I don't got a job for you." But that's what he said. So, you know, and then like when I went back after I graduated, the first thing when he saw me, the first thing he said, "Oh man, you cut your cornrows." So I mean, but I had a good time, man. I definitely got a chance to meet people. I still the person that Miss Burkle knew, I talk to her from time to time. Well, we follow each other on like social media and stuff. So
Mallory?
Yeah.
Mallory Carlson.
Yeah, Mallory Carlson. Yep.
It's funny. My internship at the Sports Machine was pretty similar, but I had to do it pretty much. It was super, super truncated. I only did it for 5 weeks. Just couldn't really fit much more in. So that time, even in that first 5 weeks, my first assignment I had was that Allen Iverson softball game. So I talked to AI, I talked to LeBron, I talked to Tim Thomas, I talked to Rip Hamilton. I feel like there was somebody else, but yeah, it was crazy, you know, being there and seeing that whole thing. And then my next assignment was Dave Bautista was at some YMCA in Washington. It was before he became Batista, where he was just sort of, I think he was sort of, he hadn't hit his stride yet, because that was summer of 2004. So that was pretty cool. I got to cover a Mystics game at College Park, because there was, I think, a Madonna concert. So they had to basically play their game at the Comcast Center. I talked to Stacey Dales and Elena Beard. And Man, I'm trying to think of what else. Those were the like only on-site ones. But yeah, the charting, I remember it was 4 color pens. It was black, red, green, and blue. I forgot which one's for close up and which one is for when action happens and something else. I completely forgot what other color. Black was a normal mundane one, but red. I think red was close up, and I think blue was when some crazy action happened. I remember I was covering the one where I think Craig Biggio lost the ball in the ivy at Wrigley Field, and he was trying to dig through it, and the ball was on the ground. I think that was one of my highlights. Wally Bruckner was pretty good. Like I said, Wally seemed he never lost his cool. Only one time I saw him lose his cool, and it had to be something because Wally never lost his cool. Like I said, and like it's funny that whole experience. George Michael, when everybody saw him on TV, that bombastic personality and all that other stuff, he was pretty laid back in office. He was there with his wife Pat. And they would be in there pretty much every day. He probably would come in, I assume, around 3 or so, 2 or 3, because there were times because I interned and I stayed at American University, so I would walk from American University all the way to the studio. And I remember I stayed at one time Jim Vance driving in with his convertible. He was again another laid back personality. That was pretty cool seeing him. That was, like I said, my experience was like super short, but yeah, I mean, I wish I had an opportunity to do it 3 times. I wish I could have.
Yeah, I just kept calling back. I said, y'all need help? I just stayed in the office, man. I ain't had nothing else to do. I ain't had no kids.
Shoot. Man, I would have loved to do that job. I think the reason I never got into TV, I was thinking of like the superficial nature of it, But then again, when you see larger people on TV now, it's like, oh, okay, now this would have worked. I wish I thought about that 15 years ago. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, because even Al Roker had to lose weight. So, going real quick on this, I know we talked about the internship, the study sessions. We had some late night study sessions that especially papers. A lot of them were probably for Dr. Gima. I could tell you that because we never had to worry about them in really any other class. Maybe Dr. Coolidge. Those are the only 2 classes I can think of. I had to write a paper last minute, and most of the times it was for Dr. Gima.
Yeah, I think I remember one time we had to pull an all-nighter for Dr. James' After American Lit. Like I think it was like her final or midterm. I think it was the final. We were up so late that day. I was like, we had to be up to at least like 4 a.m. at least, and it was crazy. We were all sleepy and tired, but we were all trying to cram and pass that test because we knew it was going to be a tough test. I was like, man, at that point, I was really hating that semester. I was like, dang, man, it was like, that was rough. I mean, that was the roughest study session. And then I did to pull a lot of all-nighters to do her papers and to do Dr. Keenan's papers and every other paper. Like, I remember they all were bombarding me at the same time with papers. It was the crazy part. And I think we even had, was it Mama D's class? I had to do something for her.
Yeah, that drama play.
Yeah.
Was it a speech? I know we had to do the presentation. We had to recite it.
This was the play.
Yeah, we had to write something, some kind of synopsis or something. I can't recall. Yeah, and I was like, bro, I stayed up for like 2-3 weeks straight, like just like a lot of late nights. And it was unbelievable. But those study sessions were no joke. It was always for the hardest professors, man. And it's like I studied, but it's like I hated to study. Like I hated to like sit down. Kenny would see me like when we would go out in the we was in our suite, and I would just be out on the kitchen table with the books. Yeah. We had a lot of long nights out there too. Right. In our kitchen. I remember my last semester, Earl, we had study sessions that semester too and stayed up late.
It was like pretty much all 6 of us. It was me, you, Kenny, Frank, Kilo. Actually, no, Andre was gone by then because he left in 3.5 years.
He had already graduated. He had already moved on. Yeah. Bring the passes. You know what I mean? But he's a part of those things too. Yeah.
I was going to say, I feel like it's that Mandela effect. I was like, man, I could have swore Andre was there that final semester senior year because he was gone.
Yeah. One thing I always admired about him, man, is that he tested out of those 4 language classes. I wish I knew one language. He tested out of them the first time, man. I was always amazed by that. I'm like, man, I don't think I can pass these classes if I don't even take these classes. And then on top of it, I barely passed the course, even though I took the classes, still barely passed. So, but yeah, I always admired that about him. But yeah, he also had those nights too when he had to pull long nights, man. A lot of them was for the papers, which is the life of an English major. You're gonna get a lot of papers, and you got, and a lot is expected of you when you write those things. So especially when we got the Dr. Jeemus classes, I did not want to mess those up because I needed those. I needed those papers. So I knew, like, that was going to help get me through if anything else went wrong with a test or anything like that. I could fall back on those papers. But the papers had to be perfect. And she had high standards, like everything.
And the good thing is she did let you turn a paper in early just for feedback, and then give you that chance to fix it, which I kept one time. And I know because I'm gonna tag her in this video. I'm like, there's one paper. It was like my final paper for her, and I'm like, I want you to look at this. I want you to look. No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. No, I want you to look at this. I want you to look at it. Ended up going back. Okay, I saw a couple things I need to change, and then I got an A on the paper. I got the A on the paper because instead of going the literary route, I went the historical route because it was talking about the migration of blacks to the north and things like that. We were talking about like a winding sheet and a few bunch of other stories that that I remember because I remember that distinctly. I wish I could find that paper that she gave the A because to this day I will remember that. And I'm like, you know what? When I actually put the effort in, and the other thing was this: we used to write it late, but the biggest thing I always forgot to proofread. Proofreading, oh man, proofreading that really comes in handy, especially like I said, once you get into journalism, proofreading is your friend.
Yeah. Well, for me, what was the question again?
The late night study session.
Okay, yeah. It was the French, the French class. I don't know if Linwood was in there with me or not. I don't remember. I don't recall, but I do know like my I had to actually, for a final exam, we had a written and oral. So the oral part was the one I was worried about. We had to role play like we were in it was one-on-one. We had to role play like we were in a restaurant. We had to speak French, ordering our food, going through appetizer, the meal, drinks, dessert, all that stuff, and the whole nine. So, but yeah, that last semester, man, where we all, used to study and all that stuff, sometimes at our suite library or whatever, that was the roughest one because I had like 3 classes that I had to pass in order for me to graduate. Like these were like critical classes, so I'm not waiting till the last minute to take them. So.
Yeah, I always think of the last few classes I need to take. There was a statistics class where I got a D in it. I'm like, it's a D. I didn't need it. It was a math. I just needed something. I needed to pass. The D was good enough for me. In environmental and science class, I got my ego boosted by the academic team. So I went in there and told Dr. Heath, I wasn't able to make the class over the academic team. He's like, we can't have somebody on the academic team not graduating. So he gave me like a B or a C. I'm like, yeah, I can't complain. And I'll admit, there were some classes where I would just slack them over. I'm like, you know what, this is good enough. But when it came to the classes in the major, no, you can't fool around. And honestly, I think about it. I had 4 of Dr. Champagne's classes. I made it through the first 3. That 4th one was tough for Spanish, and I was struggling with that, but I got through it. So, I mean, I used to joke and say I don't remember how I got through some of the classes at UMES or high school or probably a few other things, but I did it. I did it in some way.
Right. Same here.
One of the things I was gonna do was sort of like a what comes to mind when you see this photo, but I think we're running a little behind, and I think we'll definitely hold that on for a later episode. I think as we start getting close to wrapping this up, really, I guess summing up everything in UMES, how would you best sum up your UMES? I know we talked about it a little earlier, but there's anything else you'd like to add to the whole experience at UMES?
Like I said, man, I enjoyed my experience there. I really did. I'm grateful that I got a chance to develop good friendships with Kenny, with Dre, Frank, you, Earl, my other boy Mike Spreewell. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad I met y'all brothers, man. Straight up. You know what I'm saying? I had a ball like hanging out with all of you guys the whole time I was there. We had a lot of good times down there. We really did. And like honestly, man, like I'm glad that I had a roommate for Kenny, because Kenny, man, like straight up, bro, I think we were good roommates for like for like our first year there, like you know what I mean. And I felt like we complement each other really well and truly hit it off, like you know what I'm saying. And became friends, like you know what I mean. Like I remember stories about people who they complain about their roommates, like man, I gotta get away from this dude, or girls complain about like, yeah, I couldn't wait to not be her roommate anymore. I never had that issue with Kenny at all, man. I thought Kenny was mad cool. You know what I mean? Great family. His family, I remember Kenny's family would come down like on his birthdays and do things for him. I thought that was really cool. His family was cool. You know what I mean? I met a lot of cool people at Eastern Shore. I really did. And had fun, and I was in an environment that truly was good for me. I mean, like honestly, look, I like the shore. If I could vacation down there every so often, I would. I like Ocean City, to be honest with you. And a lot of other things. It was a cool experience for me. I learned a lot. I grew a lot there, and now I didn't realize how much the lessons I learned there would impact me going forward until now. Back then when you're young, man, and people tell you things that go in one ear and out the other. And it taught me a lot about handling responsibility, stepping up. I'm thankful for Dr. Jima being hard on me, for Dr. Keenan being hard on me, because I knew the place. Now I get where they were coming from. Whereas back then I'm just like, come on, man, give us a break. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, but I'm glad that they did stay honest and demand a lot of it, because that's what the world demands of us, And just looking back on, I'm grateful. I just didn't see it like that back then. I was just like, I just wanted to get through my classes. I wanted to graduate. I wanted to get the heck up out of school and be done with school finally. But looking back on it, I was prepared well by the English department. I look back on it, I think I had a really cool and good experience and met a lot of good people there.
Yeah, I definitely piggyback with what Linwood said, man. Definitely met great people. A lot of fun times, a lot of funny moments.
Yep.
At the room every time, we had the suite when we was upperclassmen there, so we had the Hawks Landing suite. So every time somebody come back from a bad day or something like that, the good thing about our suite is I felt like stuff would happen to either one of me, Dre, Frank, Mike when he was there. But we all found a way to turn it into a joke when we talk about it amongst each other. It was just, we all had our inside jokes. So it was like the way you just would not believe the stories that used to go through that damn week, man. And those are one of the fun moments, man. Just doing that and sharing those moments with those guys, man. And also like with Wood, man, I never told him this, but he was definitely I kind of looked up to him, man, as far as how he took aim at his study habits and stuff like that. I used to always say to him, I'm like, man, if he could be setting time aside to do that and get his grades, I could do that too. So I used to look at him and look up to him in his study habits and stuff like that, man. So I used to try to apply myself as much as he did. So, and I think that was one of the reasons why I got up out of there, with a degree. And but yeah, even the parties and the off-campus parties and the parties on campus, the basement parties. Remember that? I mean, just good memories, man. It's just great memories when I think about it. The early 2000s, man. That was definitely good times, great times, and I'm glad that I met each and every one of y'all. Earl, I think we met my last year in school and stuff like that. I remember like you used to help us out a lot. That's why I say anything you need from me, I know if you want me to come on, I'll come on, man. Like I'll set time aside for you and everybody, man. So definitely appreciate I remember going in. I definitely appreciate you guys' friendships, man.
Yeah.
All y'all value to stay holding close, man. Really, really do value, man. Thank y'all for everything, man. Memories and the fun times, because we did have some good times there. I mean, I was back at campus, just tripping with y'all, just watching NBA games and just tripping off that stuff. You know what I mean?
$5 pizzas from Domino's.
Zones. Oh my goodness, man. We stayed at Pizza Hut and Popeyes.
Yep.
We stayed there. Oh man.
Yep.
I remember that one time I was in the. I think it was. I don't know. I feel like it was. I don't know, Linwood, if it was you and Andre possibly at one point, because I was working on a Colt 45 at one point, and I'm like, no, I can't do that. I can't. Colt 45s are not my thing, as I learned in my my tolerance for alcohol ended up being Mad Dog and Boone's Farm, but oh God, man, I'll say that before we wrap that up. Yeah, man, imagine when we thought we were something, we were drinking Mad Dog, Boone's Farm. And like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah, we thought we knew something, man.
Hey, yeah, like I say, y'all ain't know something until y'all had some Manischewitz Jewish wine. Oh my God, it was bad. I now I know why I don't drink wine. If every wine tastes like that, I will never. But yeah, and one thing I wanted to say, what you were saying, Kenny, you know what? The biggest thing is the impressions you leave on people in life. Those are the most important things, because it's just the fact that you enter somebody's life, no matter for how long or how quickly. You know what? If you leave an impression good enough, that means the world to. I think that means the world to people.
Yeah, there's like some long weekends, man. I mean, yeah, sometimes it was long. Some weekends were not as eventful as others, right? But it was just the camaraderie, man, and the comedy that was going on in our suite that just kept my spirits up, man. Yeah. I'm telling you, man, we found so much stuff that just turned into an inside joke down there. It's hilarious, man. Like, I'm telling you,
yeah, man.
Like everybody that roomed with us was tripping. Like, bro, really hilarious. Like, you know what I mean? Like straight up, it was really fun times.
Yeah, especially Dre and Frank, man. Them two guys.
I know Frank would always talk about his class with Dr. Okafor and how he would make that face to Dr. Okafor like Mr. Corsey.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. It was just a lot of funny times, man. Here
we go, man. 15 years.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to believe, man. It's hard to believe it's been that
long. Yeah, 20 years since we started.
Yep.
20 years, yep.
Oh man, that is definitely crazy. Well, I wanted to say, just before we wrap this up, you guys got any shout outs, anything you want to promote? I know, Kenny, you do your podcast. We talked about it the last episode, but feel free to promote it again.
Yeah, bar drinks and entrees, man. We it's basically you go to a bar and you find yourself in having a good time and good conversation with people you don't even know, and y'all talking about anything from sports to relationship, politics or whatever, social issues or whatever, and you find yourself having a good time eating and enjoying it, and that's basically what the show is about. So we available on all streaming platforms, YouTube, Apple, Google, Spotify, the ones I can think of off the top of my head, but we available on all streaming platforms, man. And just remember to subscribe. We on IG, bar drinks and entrees. So that's it.
Nothing for myself personally to plug, but I also wanted to vouch for Kenny's podcast. It's really cool, really dope. I've watched a few episodes myself, and it is really good. They have really good discussions, really good conversations, cover a lot of relatable topics, and it's very well done. It's very well done. I'm just impressed with the work that Kenny and his crew are doing with that podcast. It's really good stuff.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, hey, feel free to let me know. I'm going to check it out myself. I want to say for everybody who's been watching, thank you guys for tuning in, for the likes. Definitely. Thank you for the comments, Fred. Definitely. We will definitely keep up the good work. Hey, we really appreciate that for you guys who may not have seen the comment. So we got a comment from Fred Donahue. Definitely we'll try to keep that up. For everybody who's watching on Facebook and on YouTube. And thank you to our Twitch follower. Definitely really appreciate it. This is Earl Holland saying be on the lookout for our next live stream for Kenny Brown and for Linwood Outlaw. I really appreciate you guys. We'll hang out for a little bit after the credits go off, and then we'll talk and call it a night.
All right.